The best nutrition plan for fat loss is not necessarily the one that looks good on paper, but rather it's the one that the client can repeat without any friction or stress or overwhelm or confusion as to why it's working on a regular basis. No matter what the plan is, if there's friction to be able to repeat it, it's probably not a plan that's going to work well. See, I see a lot of people that make the mistake of saying, if you can't follow the diet for longer than 30 days, then that's not a sustainable diet plan. Bullshit. That's not true. That is actually very inaccurate. Too often do we focus so much so on long-term sustainability that we forget about short-term victories. You cannot focus so much on the big long-term diet plan that you forget that you still need to get great results right now. So the best plan for any individual who wants to lose fat is not always the best one as far as what looks good on paper. It's also not the one that is the most sustainable on paper. It's the one that is going to be repetitive day to day for the duration of the diet you are accomplishing or trying to accomplish without any friction. Okay. Sustainability is very important, but we can't worry so much about how we're going to follow this diet next year that we self sabotage this week. There's a very specific part of creating calorie deficit that is not sustainable. And I think that's the best way to think about it. I think that's where a lot of people get mistaken. If you are creating a calorie deficit inside of your diet and it's going to be effective enough for you to get significant results that you can noticeably see in the mirror, which is what everybody wants, especially in those first 3 to 4 weeks, is to create a calorie deficit that is not sustainable long term. Sorry, it's plain and simple. If you're dieting for fat loss, you should feel like you're dieting a little bit. If you don't feel like you're dieting at all, you're probably not paying attention close enough to the food you're eating. You're probably not creating a big enough deficit if you're just always full and never hungry. I mean, think about it really. Why on earth would you never be hungry if you're in that state? Being hungry is not a bad thing. Being hungry is a signal that the calorie deficit is working and you are probably losing weight. So we need to be able to create this. And that can sound somewhat contradicting to the principle I'm talking about right now, which is repeatability. But I'm talking about repetitiveness and repeatability in the duration of the diet and the fat loss phase that we have planned. Okay. And so I say all this to say, when we make something very repetitive day to day, we eliminate the requirement for willpower and discipline. And when we do that, it becomes very, very easy to follow on a regular basis. Don't get that confused with sustainable forever, because the best plan for somebody to lose fat is not always the one that looks best on paper. It's the one that creates the less friction when trying to repeat it day to day. However, it also does not mean that you need to repeat it month to month, year after year. It means you're in a fat loss phase. There's going to be aspects of chasing fat loss that are not repeatable over the years to come. It's not a lifelong journey. This is a 12-week fat loss phase. You're going to grind. Let's get after it. And if we baby the process too much by trying to make it so sustainable that you can envision yourself doing this forever, we're not going to accomplish much success. I'd rather teach you how to do something a little bit hard, challenge yourself, develop the characteristics and traits you need to be successful, get the job done in the diet in the short period of time, especially in the grand scheme of things, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, maybe even 20 to 24 weeks at most. That's 6 months out of your life. That's not crazy. And during that process, we're going to give you the tools to make the diet change after the goal is accomplished. And then you move into a diet and an eating plan that is sustainable for the rest of your life. That is the mindset we have to have. Either way, during the diet itself, it needs to be repeatable. That's principle number 2. Principle number 3 is flexibility, which is good because as we're talking about the calorie deficit and energy balance being so important, something being repetitive and how we got to try to automate so we don't have to muster up willpower and discipline so often, we do have to recognize that if we make a plan that looks amazing on paper and we can technically on paper repeat it day to day, but it's miserable in the process, we're going to fail too. We might make it 3-4 weeks, but you're going to fail. So there has to be aspects of the diet that are flexible. And this is why number 3 principle is flexibility. Rigid diets negatively impact how people view eating. This is what causes people to have disordered eating, not eating disorders. That would be something like bulimia or anorexia. This is talking about disordered eating, which is more of a mental issue, an emotional response with eating. Sometimes this includes binge and restrict cycles. Sometimes this includes body image, body dysmorphia, body image issues, body confidence issues. Sometimes this has to do with like being obsessive with tracking and calories and measuring. all of which we can use tracking as a measuring tool to eliminate those things as well, by the way. In fact, research does not point to tracking causing any of those things. It's the dieter, not the diet itself. You can create a disordered eating pattern in your life with any type of diet you follow. The method can turn into an obsessive habit. It's how you're coached, how you act, how you operate, how you set goals, how you create the plan you're going to follow day to day. That's what determines whether or not it increases the likelihood of you having disordered eating patterns. But anyway, we have to allow for flexibility, whether that is, like I was saying before, date nights, social eating, holidays. As I'm recording this, we're a few days away from Thanksgiving this year. Same thing. It's like this has to be a day where we eat intentional, not fully intuitive, but we have to enjoy the food too. We don't track and measure food on Thanksgiving, but we should have the level of internal discipline and more so internal respect, because when you have self-respect at a high level, that's where you have rules and standards and guidelines and principles that you follow and stay integrous with. And when you have integrity with those rules and expectations for yourself, you're going to act in more alignment with the person you want to be and the goals you have. This is why personal identity, personal values, personal standards are so important for getting great fat loss results. This is why we prioritize that with clients so much. But flexibility can actually teach you how to have self control.